Right now, you have an opportunity. By doing nothing, you can serve your nation and the world. You're not suffering life, you're suffering that idea. But if the idea gets stronger and stronger, then the body will also start suffering after some time. So this is a good time that you break the status quo of who you are and see if you can transform yourself into a better human being. See if you can transform yourself into a more wonderful presence to be. See if you can become that wonderful person that you always wanted to meet. You become that wonderful person, don't search for them. If we don't understand what I'm saying, you can keep your mouth closed and hold your nose like this for two minutes, that you don't want to breach your boundaries, you want your boundary to be absolute, then you understand what happens to life.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs, sharing our vulnerability, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Sadhguru, the Indian yogi, mystic, visionary, and philanthropist. You have been a keynote speaker at the United Nations and the World Economic Forum and have been named as one of India's 50 most influential people. Your book, Inner Engineering, a New York Times bestseller, details your transformational system for achieving inner fulfillment. And your Isha Foundation, with more than 9 million volunteers worldwide, is dedicated to addressing all aspects of human well-being. During this COVID-19 coronavirus global lockdown, you are providing guidance on how people can use this time to improve ourselves both physically and mentally. Sadhguru, thank you very much. Welcome back to London Real.
Namaskaram, nice to be back with you, huh? Nice to be back in London, but unfortunately London is not doing well. It's really disheartening to hear that your Prime Minister is in the hospital. That's not good for the country. I think it'll put the people down, seeing that the leaders are getting affected like this. I hope he gets well soon.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we've seen, what it looks like, millions of people infected worldwide. The deaths are now approaching the 100,000 mark. Nearly 3 billion people locked down, 1.3 billion in your country of India. Sadhguru, you recently said in every situation there is a teaching if you are willing to learn. And I'm wondering, what is the teaching moment here, in your opinion?
See, it is not that the virus is interested in teaching you anything. The virus would like to see that you don't learn anything new. You don't learn anything, you won't produce some antibodies for it. So virus is not interested in teaching you anything or you learning anything from the virus. The important thing is, first and foremost thing is, situations like this bring home to most human beings who are unconscious most of the time, that how fragile human life is. We are a tiny microscopic organism we are in terms of this cosmos, or even as a planetary system in the solar system itself, we are sitting on a tiny little mud ball called Earth and we're thinking too much of ourselves. So these kind of things bring home as to who we are. Sitting in a tiny little place like this, we are thinking we are the center of the universe, which is the biggest mistake humanity has done. So in a way, it brings home that we shouldn't have waited for the virus. This is something we must always perceive and understand, and above all, to be conscious of. Then we would prioritize our life in a very different way. Right now, most human beings are going about as if they are the center of the universe and they're going to be here forever. Viruses kind of brought this home to most people that, well, tomorrow it could be you or me, all right? This is always true. It's not today, it's always true. Every day on the planet, Nearly 150 to 200,000 people die of natural causes and otherwise. But most people think only other people die. A situation like this makes you understand it's also you who could die. This is very important for us to understand and get our life into proper perspective. Otherwise, we're just running away with something, not realizing what is what. It's unfortunate, a virulent virus has to bring this home to us. We should do this consciously ourselves.
Yeah, you said once that, a lot of us live death by installments, and yet the only certainty is death. And I guess it's times like this where we're forced to confront our own death and our relationship with death, and that makes us examine our life, and that can be uncomfortable. Is that right?
No, you should bring your life to ease because you understand you're not here forever. If you are here forever, just look at your concerns, endless concerns. You know it's a brief amount of time. All you have to do is make it beautiful for yourself and everybody around you. That's all you have to do because you have a limited amount of time. If you had the responsibility of infinity upon you, how terrible it would be.
And when you think about the virus itself, I mean, you said something interesting because the virus won't go somewhere on its own because it actually needs us. How should we have this relationship with this thing that's inside of us, and yet we're kind of running from it, but it's also a part of biology? How do we think about this thing?
Well, today is common knowledge that a large part of our body is bacteria, virus, everything, microorganisms are working for us. In terms of numbers, if you take, actually we have more microorganisms in our system than our own body cells. So, it is very much part of us, it's just that this particular virus who lived wild, in wild animals, has entered us. It's still not figured out how to just tax you, not kill you. Right now, it's taxing you in such a way that it could kill you. I think in a little while they will learn how to just tax you and make their life going rather than to take your life, because that's not their interest. Their interest is they have found a new habitat. As this is not… I'm not trying to propound some biological theory. I'm saying just common sense says that suppose viruses or whatever kind of life existed in wildlife, and wildlife in terms of numbers and percentages, they're coming down significantly. That means their habitat is going away. If their habitat is going away, it is natural for them to seek new habitat. So, in a way, it's like that. This is just simple common sense I'm talking, this is not biological sciences. But this will inevitably happen. As their habitat gets reduced, then naturally they will seek other kinds of creatures upon which they can survive. And even within us, probably in a few months' time, they will learn to live with us without really creating fatalities. I think they will come to that, that's what most of the scientists say. But when it will come to it, whether it will become more virulent or less virulent, these are all, we can only propose, the virus disposes.
Is this nature teaching us some lessons or making some suggestions to us as far as maybe the size of our population or the density, or like you said, how we treat our natural habitats and our wildlife?
Well, we are talking about a particular virus right now, but as far as the planet is concerned, we are a virus. We are virulent, we are ripping it off, all right? So in planet's experience, I'm sure Mother Earth experiences human beings as virus, and a very virulent virus. Is nature trying to teach us a lesson? First of all, we need to understand we are not some extraterrestrial creatures that nature is going to teach us a lesson. We are nature. Once we forget this, that we are nature, and everything, every creature in this… on this planet, every microorganism, insect, worm, bird, animal, everything has a role to play in our life. When we forget this, It will just come home naturally. It's not that they are trying to teach you a lesson. It will naturally come home one way or the other. I've always been saying this. Either we can consciously correct the mistakes we have done, otherwise nature will teach it to us in a very cruel manner. But nature has no intent to teach us. It's not like there is somebody called nature sitting there wanting to teach us a lesson. We are nature and it will find its own levels. And this is… I wouldn't say this is because of something that we have done. It is not like a crime and punishment kind of business. It is just that natural consequences are there because we are the maximum number of creatures on this planet. We get a lot of things. Suppose there were more monkeys or more buffaloes or more elephants on this planet than human beings, they would be getting it. So because we are the majority, Homo sapiens, we get it.
Because we are nature, ultimately. We all are.
We are nature. First, that's the most fundamental thing that has to sink into human beings. Just because we have a certain amount of individual experience and just because we have a certain amount of thought and emotion of our own, we are taking this individuality rather too seriously. We will understand we are part of the earth. For most human beings, they only get it when you bury them. Till then, they think they are a completely separate entity from the planet. So, when we are buried, it's a bit too late. If we get it now, that the very soil that you walk upon is also the body that is so valuable to you. If this is realized every moment of our life, we would definitely tread much more gently upon this planet. Not because of some ecological sciences, just simply as life, it would be natural for us to do that.
Yeah, in our last conversation, you went deep into how if we can understand that we are nature, then we don't need to be told how to treat it. We don't need a lesson in morality or in values. If we can actually see nature in ourselves, then it's obvious how to behave. I think you made an analogy to me, you don't cut one of your fingers off, so why would you treat nature that way? And we use part of that in our latest film, Reconnect, and it's amazing. So I appreciate you putting that in perspective, Sadhguru. I'm curious for you, in the last month, what has surprised you when you look at the world reaction to this? Both good and bad. What have you seen humanity do that maybe might have surprised you, or is it not surprising?
It's not surprising for me. The way the humanity is reacting is very expected. The fear, the insecurity and the economic panic and many religious nuts reacting in their own way and saying they will find some heavenly solution. Of course, leaving this place is a good solution, if that's what you think about yourself. But most people want to live. This idea that, in my opinion, this idea that there is a better place elsewhere than this planet to live is the most disastrous and criminal idea that's gotten into people's heads. So the idea of heaven, that there is another place which is better than this place, has been the main source of destruction in many ways. If people realize this is the place for you to live, either you make this into heaven or hell, within yourself and around yourself, if everybody got this, I think we would live much more sensibly. So, there are religious nuts, there are people with ideologies who are thinking and philosophies, people are busy weaving new philosophies. There are a whole lot of people that there is some sadistic satisfaction. Whenever a tragedy happens, they will try to find a lesson and write a scripture on that, how you're being punished by God or by nature or this or that. That's not the way to look at it. When people suffer, what is needed is compassion and responsible action, that's all. It is not a time to weave philosophy and say, because you did all this, now you're getting this as a result of that. This is a very… I don't know, it's quite inhuman for me to tell people who are suffering. Right now, somebody is on their deathbed with their lungs full of whatever, fibrosis or whatever. You go and tell that guy, you're being punished because you did something wrong with this planet, or you did something wrong against God, or whatever philosophies you have. I think it's quite obscene to do that. It is just that this is the nature of life. Nature of life is such, it is one life is woven into another. Lives are not happening separately. All lives are woven into one another, and at certain times, certain life dominates certain situations. Right now it is the virus. It's time right now, we need to overcome this.
You recently said, we will all die. Either you die for nothing or you die for something, and I would rather die for something. Is this a time we need to examine our death in that way and what we want our life to mean? Is this a good time for that? Is that the positive we can get from this difficult situation?
This is a time we must ensure that we stay alive and everybody around us stays alive. That's the most important thing. Well, young people who are hesitant to go and serve the society outside, then I told them, anyway you're going to die, at least die for something rather than dying for nothing. When something is necessary, if as a human being, if you forsake your humanity for your safety, I think I cannot live with that. I would rather keep my humanity, and my safety I will forsake if necessary, but my humanity I would rather keep. So some people choose to forsake their humanity because they think it's safe. There is no safety like that. There is no safety in that. Once you've lost it, once you've lost your basic sense of humanity, then what is the meaning of your safety? So in that context I said that. Anyway, it is true that all of us will die. It's not my idea. Death is not my idea, though recently I published a book in India called Death, an Inside Story. It's not a novel, it's a
Good timing.
No, this was done just before the virus in December.
And what are some of the lessons from the book that apply to what's happening right now?
So the book is titled like this, Death, an Inside Story, a book only for those who shall die, not for the immortal beings, only for those who shall die, which may be a small number of people.
And are you going to tell us a little about the book, or do we have to buy it to find out?
I can send you one. I'll send you one. Make sure send a book to Brian.
Something else you said recently is that the human species doesn't like boundaries, and that the moment there's a threat to our survival, we kind of build boundaries, and we're usually trying to expand all the time. I'm just wondering what you're seeing here as far as this boundary to us, and it's a threat for our expansion. Is that why we react in this way to it?
No, I think this reaction is mostly people fear, either they will… Fear of death is one thing definitely, because that's an imminent possibility. And another thing is loss of economic well-being maybe. And for other people, it's loss of their liberty. For other people, it's loss of they can't go and sit in the pub. It's loss of, restrictions on their compulsive behavior in many ways. They don't see this as a great opportunity to stay at home, to spend some time with themselves, improve themselves, spend some time with the family. No, it seems that domestic violence is going up almost 100% in many countries. In various countries, domestic violence has gone up in a huge way. In some countries, up to 100% increase in the domestic violence complaints. So, if we get time to be with each other, then we will battle each other because we don't know how to be with anybody. These are not some strangers that you're locked up with. You're not Robinson Crusoe, on a deserted island. You're just with your family. People that you consider and claim are your loved ones. And 15 days, woof, you freaked out, you can't stay with them. So it's time to examine the nature of who we are, how we are keeping ourselves, what is the nature of our relationships. First of all, we are being referred to as human beings. No other creature on this planet is referred to as a being. All of them are creatures. There is no elephant being or tiger being or anything like that, only human being. So the most fundamental qualification to be a human being is that you know how to be. Oh, how far from the definition are we? Do people know how to be? If they knew how to be, every opportunity is a possibility. Even this. Though it has an economic cost, maybe it could be fatal for many people, but still, even this is a possibility if we know how to be. Right now, human beings are a bundle of thoughts, emotions, ideas, opinions, prejudices, and above all, compulsions. Because of that, this collage of things that we have put together as me right now or as myself, this is causing all the trouble. So, everything that you think, everything that you feel, including your physical body, is something that you slowly gathered over a period of time. Now, what you gather can be rearranged in your home, furniture can be rearranged. But if you try to rearrange furniture, there'll be domestic situation because somebody else doesn't like it. They want everything status quo. So this is a good time that you break the status quo of who you are and see if you can transform yourself into a better human being. See if you can transform yourself into a more wonderful presence to be. See if you can become that wonderful person that you always wanted to meet. You become that wonderful person. Don't search for them.
How do we start that?
They're an extinct species.
How do we start that process? Is it meditation, reflection? Like, how can we start that new relationship with ourselves?
Well, the simple thing is, now that the situation is forcing people to be away from everything else for some time, in the yogic system, out of the eight… you must have heard of the 8 limbs of yoga. It's called Ashtanga yoga, 8 limbs of yoga. One of the limbs of yoga is called pratyahara. Pratyahara means, see, most of the time in your life, you're perceiving everything through your senses. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste and what you touch. This is how you know there is a world around you. This is what is giving you all the information. This information is all given to you in parts, only to the extent it is necessary for your survival. That is why human beings are such a mess. See, right now if you see this part of my hand, you cannot see this part of my hand. So you will see this part of my hand and make your conclusions about my hand. But the moment I turn around, you know it's an Indian hand. This way I could be anybody, but this way you know, this is an Indian hand, all right? So for everything, even if you take a grain of sand, you only see one part of it. This is the nature of sense organs. It cannot perceive everything as it is, it only perceives in parts to the extent it is necessary for your survival. Anything beyond survival it doesn't tell you because that's not its business. But once you come as a human being, survival is not good enough. Suppose we give you food and shelter to live, we will make sure you get food for the rest of your life. Will you just live happily in one room? You will not, because you will want something more. If we give you that something more, you will see by evening you will want something more. This will go on endlessly if we give you the planet and make Brian the king of this planet. Will he settle? No, he will look at the stars. If I give you one galaxy, will you settle? No, you will want the next one. Because this is the nature of being human. There is something within us which does not like boundaries. There is something within us that is constantly seeking boundlessness. But right now, because we have kept ourselves unconscious, it is seeking this unconsciously through physical means. Through physical means, if you try to reach boundlessness, inevitably you will be frustrated. Why I'm saying this is, the nature of physical existence, why physical exists is only because of a defined boundary. If there is no defined boundary, there is no physicality. If I remove the boundaries of my body, there is no such thing as physical body anymore. So, physicality exists because of boundaries, but there is something within you which wants to go beyond all boundaries. So, when you make an attempt through physical means, if you try very basic physical expansion of yourself, this is called sexuality. If you attempt this with your thought, this is called ambition, conquest, accomplishments. If you try with your emotion, this is called a love affair. If you do it consciously, it's called yoga. Yoga means union. This is one definition, Brian, we must change in UK or wherever people get to reach you. that yoga does not mean twisting and turning and Lululemon pants and that kind of stuff. What yoga means is union, that your idea of you being an individual is just your idea. Nobody believes it. You ask the tree, it's laughing at you because it knows without it giving out oxygen you cannot breathe. It always knew. Only now human beings are realizing after taking away too many trees from the planet. So, our existence here is not individual, it is happening as a composite whole. But in our thought and emotion, we have started taking our individuality rather too seriously, so seriously that we are suffocating. This suffocation, you give grand names like I have depression, I have manic depression, I have this, I have that. All that's happening is you are suffocating in your own physical boundaries because you made it so constricted. If we don't understand what I'm saying, you can keep your mouth closed and hold your nose like this for two minutes, that you don't want to breach your boundaries, you want your boundary to be absolute, then you understand what happens to life.
And so this is a great time for us to realize that this is the human nature, to try to expand beyond our boundaries, and that's to a certain extent futile. And so we should have or meditate on the fact that that is not who we are, and that we are more than that.
If I can correct this a little bit, the question, because we are not trying to expand, we want to become boundless. Because our thought is going in incremental process, we think the way to go towards infinity is in installments. This is like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one day I will say infinite. Is it possible?
No.
We'll only become endless counting. So we are not looking for expansion, we are not looking for more, we are looking for all. But right now it's finding expression in installments, that is the main problem.
Wow. And what about people that say to you, Sadhguru, I'm bored right now. I'm sitting at home bored. Someone told you they were bored of the internet, and that was pretty impressive. Why are people bored?
If you are bored of yourself, can you imagine the plight of all the people who have to live with you? So what you're bored of is not life, what you're bored of is not the world around you, what you're bored of is what is happening in this bone box. Your own thought and emotion is making you very bored, it needs some extra input on a daily basis, otherwise it feels bored with what is there. So this input was happening with social interactions and you are titillating yourself with social media, people, this, that. But after 1 week, 10 days of social media, you are repeating the same things. You are always repeating the same things. If I don't understand, if people don't understand what I'm saying, you must go and sit in a London bar where all the old-timers are meeting. The moment they get drunk, day after day, year after year, they're generally talking about the same thing. People think because they're drunk, they're talking like this. No, because they're drunk, they're little more honest. Otherwise, they will make it up in so many different ways. Because they're little drunk, they're honest now, they're just, rolling out what is there on their mind. If you listen to it, it's always the same thing, always the same thing. A few things that they think is great, they're just endlessly talking about it. Why this is happening is because whatever you might have gathered in your mind, compared to the nature of the existence, it is a minuscule. You're trying to make a minuscule accumulation of the existence that you have within yourself. Why? When the whole existence is available to you, why is it that you're trying to live with a minuscule? Because this is my minuscule, this is your problem. I am telling you, if you want, I will make a document, a proper document. It's not legal, but I can make you a document that this whole existence belongs to you and distribute it to the whole population. This is what I've been trying to do. It anyway belongs to you, why do you need a piece of paper? Because the whole world is moving towards a paperless operation. I'm telling you, let's forsake the paper document. I'm telling you, this whole cosmos belongs to you. If you're willing, it's yours. Brian, you are somewhere far away, but I think you're mine. What's the problem? You can also take me, no problem.
So if we're bored, it's because we are not, I'm not going to use the word expand.
We are exclusive. We've excluded ourselves from the universe.
Okay.
We are not inclusive in nature.
Okay. So if we can include ourselves in this totality of the universe and nature and all these amazing things happening, we will never be bored.
No, it is not that we have to include ourselves. Genuinely try to exclude yourself and see. In your mind, you have excluded yourself. Instead of that, genuinely try to exclude yourself. Right now, you don't want to be involved with this world. First thing you must cut is food, water, breath. Cut it off for 2 minutes and see how exclusion feels. That's how it feels. So, anyway, existence has included you, but in your mind you have a silly idea of exclusion and you're suffering that idea. You're not suffering life, you're suffering that idea. But if the idea gets stronger and stronger, then the body will also start suffering after some time.
I understand. I used to be someone who excluded myself from the world a lot, and it was not a very nice experience. And when I try to include myself in the world, everything changes. Now, Sadhguru, what should people be doing when they're locked at home? You said that maybe we should try to be getting 10% better or trying to raise our energy levels. What are some of the things we could be doing?
One simple thing you could do is, if you are a man, no, I don't want to get into the gender business, whoever you are, whatever is your idea of a most wonderful human being that you would like to meet, 10 qualities of that person you write down, the ideal person, not you, that ideal person. Or you think people, somebody thinks that ideal person is God, somebody else thinks he's son of God, somebody else thinks they're in the neighborhood. It doesn't matter which way you think, whichever way you think. What are those 10 things which make somebody into your idea of an ideal person? And see if you can become 10% of that. That is very easy to do. And another simple thing to do is, anyway, you don't have much to do right now for the next couple of weeks or few weeks, and anyway, UK says up to 6 months. Now that you are suffering your work so much, many people are suffering their work so much, the way they're going to work, I see, people are driving their dream cars and going to their work, most of them, but they're going with such miserable faces. Some of the studies in United States of America, which is probably economically the most successful country in the world, 70% of the people say that they hate their work. Not dislike their work, they hate their work. Well, then this is the best time. This is great, because it's, thank God, it's Friday. Now it's Friday all the time, for some time at least. Why can't you enjoy this? No, even on Friday you did not enjoy it, maybe you were knocked out by something, and maybe that was a relief for you, and of course for the world, because you were not there. If you get knocked out because of alcohol or drug or something, all that happened is you did not exist for a period of time. It was a relief for you, and I'm sure it was a relief for the rest of the world. Please, make use of this time. Simple thing you can do is, you can go up to 6 hours a day, but you can start with half an hour, 1 hour. Don't do anything, just close your eyes and sit. You will see, if you sit like this, in half an hour's time you have to move 10 different times. Let it be. Don't get involved in it. If your body needs to move, let it move. Your mind will go crazy, it'll run all over the place, it'll create all kinds of emergencies. Whatever happens, don't respond. Don't try to stop it, don't respond. Whatever the thought, don't follow it. Whatever the thought, don't try to stop it. Don't try to create anything new, don't try to be creative and think of something. You can't be creative, let this be very clear. You're only recycling what you already know in permutations and combinations and thinking you're making something up. Can I tell you a joke, Brian? This is getting serious. Hello?
Yes, please. I love your jokes.
This happened in 2050. A bunch of scientists sought appointment with God and they went there. Because they were celebrated scientists, they got the appointment and they went there. Then they told God, "Hey, old man," somehow in the West at least, God is an old man, you know. In India, gods are young and they're dancing and full of romance and all that. But in the West, God is an old man because an old man is safe in every way. So, they went and said, "Hey, old man, you've done pretty well with creation, but now we can do everything that you can do." God said, "Oh, is that so? What can you do?" he asked. They said, "We can make life." Said, "Let me have a demo." So they dug up some soil, took it up, they did all kinds of processes and it became a little baby and started meow, okay, cried out. Here it's alive, without the usual process of man, woman coming together, all this, right there in a laboratory, they created a baby which cried. God said, "Well, that's pretty impressive, but first get your own soil." Because we didn't realize when we're walking on the land, the soil that you're walking upon and who you think you are is the same stuff. You didn't make anything new. Out of this soil, a tree is coming up, out of this soil, an elephant is growing, out of this soil, you are coming up. So, everything is there, life process is on already. All you have to do is sit back and enjoy the life process. But right now, in modern societies, we've made it so hard just to make a living, because our idea of making a living is not eating well and sleeping well and being healthy. Our idea of living is we must be little better than our neighbor. Because of this one evil, you will never be able to relax in your life. So just try to close your eyes and sit, you will see how many problems you will have. If you just disengage your sense organs from outside, consumption of information, you will see slowly a certain process will naturally settle. You don't have to try to meditate, nothing. Do not respond to the physiological and psychological needs, simply sit there. This is only possible if you see how small and silly and actually idiotic our thought process and our whole thing is, when the larger existence is the way it is and our existence is so insignificant and now we're terrified of a invisible virus. That's how insignificant we are. But we have all kinds of grand ideas, this is going on. So the moment you think you're a smart guy, you cannot close your eyes and sit. If you realize you're a bloody fool, it's very easy to close your eyes and sit. That's the first thing you must understand. Look at yourself with a larger perspective of this creation and see how small we are, how insignificant we are and how stupid we are, okay? How unintelligent we are compared to the creation. Then if you realize you're stupid, very easy to close your eyes and sit. That's why we're always sitting with eyes closed, you know.
And so this is the exercise. Start with 30 minutes and maybe go up to an hour, or maybe go to multiple hours per day.
6 hours you could go.
6 hours. And start by just acknowledging your insignificance and your stupidity and go in that way if you need to. And then go to the silence. And if your body has to move, let it move a little bit, but go back to that silence.
But the moment you think you're very smart, you can't close your eyes and sit. You want to jump into action.
Okay. All right. And there's no creativity either. It's just regurgitating what we've had around us. Okay. That's very helpful, Sadhguru. You said something about Americans, because I'm from America originally, and you were saying 70% of the people hate their job, and then on the weekend, sometimes we change our consciousness, legally or illegally, and then we're back hating our job again. And in this time, maybe we realize that it's not the job we hate. Is it maybe ourselves that we hate? or other things that we hate but we projected in our job. So now we hate not being at our job. Is that what's happening for some people now?
It's not about hating ourselves, loving ourselves, all this stuff. The point is just this: it doesn't matter in what kind of situation you are put, you will make yourself bitter and unpleasant. That's the whole thing. Wherever you're put, that's how it is. Because it is not a particular situation that human beings are suffering. Tell me one thing that humanity is not suffering. If you're a toddler, you have diaper problems, big problem. If you become a teenager, hormonal problems, very big problem. If you become middle-aged, well, there is a crisis. Old age, horrible. Tell me which part of your life is fantastic. Here and there, when you forget your nonsense, you are fantastic. Now, it is not that being a child or being a teenager or whatever age you are is a problem. The problem is you do not know how to handle your own body, your own mind, your thought, your emotion and your chemistry. You are a bad manager of things. Because you're a lousy manager, everything seems to be bad. If only, just one thing, if you're not able to… if this is too complex, taking charge of this chemistry, this energy, all this, leave all that. If you are only able to think the way you want right now, you can only think what you want, would you be always blissed out? No matter what's happening around you, you are able to think pleasant. Would you be blissed out? I'm just saying one simple thing. If your thought and emotion just happen the way you want, you would always be blissed out, isn't it?
Yes.
Or if your just chemistry became pleasant, you would always be blissed out. So the problem is just that we gave you a very complex machine. The most sophisticated machine on the planet is this human mechanism. But most people have not even read the user's manual. They think they can blunder through with such a sophisticated machine. That's all, it's creating problems. This is why inner engineering, very important.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a great book, Inner Engineering. Talk to me about businesses, Sadhguru. What do people do as they watch their businesses disappear, go bankrupt, stop in front of their eyes? You know, billions of people around the world have businesses in India, in the UK, in America. How should they feel about this right now?
Well, this is a very trying time for the economics of the way we are used to it. Every one of us, irrespective of what we are doing, whatever is the nature of our activity, every one of us is going to take an economic hit, no question about this. Big businesses will suffer in one way, small businesses another way, individual people in another way, but every one of us, including institutions like us, there is an enormous economic burden right now. This is the kind of time where everybody expects us to serve full on, we are full on, but it's difficult for people to contribute. You even feel hesitant even to ask for a contribution because everybody is in some kind of difficulty. So in a way, if this lasts long enough, if it ends in 3-4 weeks, I think we will recover quickly. But suppose it lasts 6 to 12 months for this, even if the virus goes away, for the fear to go away, for people to be able to participate fully in whatever they are doing, to forget this a little bit and go out and do things with life, it could take months. In those few months, the world's economy can take a major hit and in turn everybody else will suffer. Is there a magic wand solution for this? There is no magic wand solution. Well, the governments are right now trying to change their fiscal policies, trying to pump in money, do this, do that. All this will work in short term. But most nations, except a couple of nations, most nations cannot simply pump in money beyond 2 to 3 months' time. They will all go… the nation itself will go bankrupt in many ways. Does it mean to say it's the end of life? It is not, because we may end up start living like how we lived here 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. This depends on how long this lasts. How quickly the virus will mutate to become more friendly to human body, that is what is going to determine what will happen to our businesses. Is there going to be a lot of pain? Yes, there is. The pain is not because only one thing is there is loss of life. People who are dear to us they may disappear, and that is one pain. Another thing is the fear of how to survive.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.